everyone, we are Geeks Not Nerds. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Vince!
Vince, it's time for a list!
A list?
Yes!
Oh, I need to go to the store. That's a good idea.
Wait, well, you need the list before you go to the store.
Oh, okay, let's go through the list.
And you need to pick up these 21 items.
Oh, 21 items. Let's see here. I believe I need cream cheese. This is the wrong list.
No, man. Is this going to be your top 21 grocery items?
Looks more like movies. Oh,
yes.
They're comic book movies.
Indeed.
That is called a trend, a pattern.
So, it's Geek Week on YouTube, and Vince and I thought it might be fun to do a little video to celebrate Geek Week. We had some people asking us if we were going to do something for this, and we thought, well, maybe it would be a great time to do something that we've been asked to do before that we've never done. In our 4 years, Vince, we've never done a countdown list of our favorite comic book movies.
Ooh.
We've never done this, and of course, I've been reviewing superhero movies this whole time, and we've done other sorts of lists, and it seems like it is high time we do this, especially because so many of these things have come out in the last 4 years.
I think that answered the question of why 21. Why 21? Because that's the age that things can drink, and this love for comic book movies is now, drinking age or so.
It's 4 equals 21 in what?
Oh, Bizarro Land.
I was gonna say, where does that math line up?
It doesn't have to.
So this is going to be our list, our each personal list of our 21 favorite comic book movies. Basically, what we did was we tried to pick movies based on comic books, not just superhero things, and not superhero things that aren't based on comic book on comic books or graphic novels. And this is going to be not what we think are critically the best movies, but the movies that we each personally are most likely to want to put in the DVD player or the Blu-ray player and watch again. So for us, our personal favorite rewatchable movies. So there will be movies, I'll say this, there will be movies that I gave 4s to that probably aren't on here.
Yeah.
And even 3.5s. There are some things that I like and that I thought were critically great, but that I wouldn't necessarily just personally be excited to put back in again.
Yeah, there are some movies on here I would not rate particularly high, but I love them.
Yeah. So it'll be kind of fun to go through that, and we thought that might be more fun than just straight up critically best, because frankly we talk about that all the time, and you could probably kind of guess what our list would be. So we're going to go right now down each of our lists. We're going to go back and forth. And Vince, we're going to start with you. Are you ready?
Oh my God!
Number 21, Vince.
Number 21 is Citizen Kane.
That is one of my favorite graphic novels.
It's amazing. Yeah, there's just this old dude walking around the country that he's a citizen of, and he has a cane.
It's really funny the way they did it too, because you get to the back page and you think it's over, but there's like no conclusions hardly, and then you get to the back cover and it says Rosebud.
Yeah, there's like flower petals everywhere. It makes no sense.
So what's your number 21, Vince?
So my number 21, believe it or not,
yes,
judge me if you will, Josie and the Pussycats.
Okay, I never would have even thought of that.
It cracks me up. And I also really
Don't most people not like that movie?
Probably. I've never looked into it. I never cared to.
Frankly, I've never seen it.
I don't necessarily know that I'd recommend it, but I liked it.
You like it.
I've seen it like 5 or 6 times. Because just over the years, I watched it kind of on a whim and enjoyed it and thought it was weird and bizarre, and it's making fun of, a certain culture that needs to be made fun of. So it's a movie that's worth watching just for commentary, not necessarily good commentary. It's not subtle by any means, and it's not necessarily even accurate. I just think it's fun.
Before we've even gotten started, we can already tell that my list is going to be more obvious than your list.
Oh, yeah?
Well, I'm just guessing.
Well, some of these, no.
I never would have thought to even consider putting that on there.
Yeah, so Josie and the Pussycats.
That's great. My number 21 is Sin City.
Sin City?
Yes, because I really like that movie.
That's
one of my... Yeah.
Is that what this list is for?
Yeah. I don't... I also critically thought it was really good. I gave it a 4 when I reviewed it, but it's one I find really rewatchable and fun in a strange way, because there was a lot of death and dismemberment in that movie. But it's also one that my wife and I have tended to sit down and watch together a lot. So, yeah,
indeed. Which is weird.
It's such I know. It's such a just visually interesting style, and there didn't used to be anything else like it.
It's not weird that somebody would sit down and watch it with their wife. It's weird that his wife likes it.
Yeah, because Sarah is not into vulgarity and gore and ripping people's heads off and things. But yeah. To be fair, I think I laughed at the Pez dispenser joke more than she did. But anyway, okay, number 20, Vince.
My number 20 is Batman Beyond: Return of the Joker.
I almost put that on my list.
I enjoy that movie quite a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily call it the best, but I do think it's good. I would rate it pretty highly if I were, to review that one. I like that. I like that movie. And it also stems from a TV series that I think is really solid. I mean, I would say of Bruce Timm's universe, it would probably be Batman and Batman Beyond. There's a lot of B's in that statement.
In comparing it to the episodes of the series, because I did a top 10 somewhat recently, it's one of the like if you could call it an episode, it would be up at the very, very top.
It's really good. It's so good.
And something I always thought was impressive about Return of the Joker is that they strayed way away from doing too many episodes of bringing old Batman villains into the future, and they do it with a movie, and it's one of the best things they did.
I think it's wise.
Yeah,
I think that's wise. Otherwise, they're just
really
trying
cool
to relive the glory days.
But it's really cool that they also did it right when they did it. Number 20 on my list is The Crow.
Yeah, I was close to putting that one on mine, too.
I love The Crow.
I like The Crow a lot. It surprises me that you like The Crow enough to put it on a top 20 list.
Yeah, you know what? I didn't used to. I had seen it once and wasn't sure what I thought of it, and then when I did my rewind on it, I kind of fell in love with it. And I've watched it again since then, and I just really like it. I've got to be in the right mood for it, which is why it's as low on my list as it is. But I find it to be one of the consummate Halloween watching movies. Like, that's a great movie to put in, like, the week of Halloween.
All right, my number, we're on 19.
19!
Daredevil, if I had to pick one, director's cut.
Yeah.
So, it's a solid movie, especially the director's cut. I mean, Daredevil's okay. There's problems with it, but Daredevil, the director's cut, is really good. And it's not exactly the tone that I would want it to be, but I feel like the thing that really launched me forward into my liking comic book movies was Daredevil, and that's not to say that's the first movie that ever caught my interest, but I think that was the first one that I really went, you know what, maybe I like comic book movies and not just X-Men, not just Blade, not just Spider-Man. So, yeah, indeed.
Good call. I thought the theatrical cut was watchable until I watched the director's cut, and now I can't watch it. Like, I can't even hardly watch the theatrical cut now.
Because there's glaring problems.
Not just glaring problems. There's no meat in it. They cut the plot out.
Yeah, well, those are the glaring problems.
Yeah, so it's just really hard to watch.
What's yours?
My number 19 is Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Really?
Yes.
Huh. I almost put that one on there, but I don't know. I like it.
I just think it's really fun.
It's definitely probably the best Michael Cera thing out there.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not a big Michael Cera fan, but that movie kind of hits me in all the right nostalgia places.
Yeah.
Because I was such a 2D side-scroller fan and like arcade junkie and that kind of thing that I don't know, really like just sound effect and soundtrack alone with that movie is enough to get me in a good mood.
The thing about Scott Pilgrim,
and also it's an ultra stylist. I love like a visual style that's really frenetic that I've never seen before, and Scott Pilgrim had that. I couldn't tell you anything else that looks like that movie.
Scott Pilgrim, like Josie and the Pussycats, makes commentary on this particular trendy crowd, and
Yeah.
I think Scott Pilgrim does it better. I mean, Josie and the Pussycats is good, but whatever. I mean, Scott Pilgrim is I think it's accurate. I think it looks at its culture that it's trying to poke fun at in a realistic manner. It's not just saying, let's make fun of someone. It's saying, let's shine a light on this culture and what's weird about it. And what's interesting about it.
And you're talking about the kind of like the kind of like wannabe band hipster thing.
Yeah, like this garage rock type stuff. Yeah, I mean, and also it's there's this kind of permeation, or whatever word you want to use, of geek culture into this. So it's this interesting injection. So it's really showing this kind of like blend of culture and how it ultimately means nothing in particular. So I find that interesting.
I also just enjoyed it as, I know this is going to sound weird, as a sheer quagmire narratively, because I spend that whole movie trying to figure out what is actually going on and what isn't.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, because the universe that you're looking at, there's got to be an unreliable narrator going on. There's got to be more of this going on in this guy's head than not, because the overall universe seems to be just kind of a normal-looking world until the evil X's show up, and then it gets preposterous and like everybody's on drugs, and I have no idea what's real and what isn't in that movie. And it's not even, and I don't even lob that at it as a criticism, because I feel like the movie knows, and I'm supposed to try to figure it out. And I find that narratively really interesting.
Because it's no fun doing it all alone. Thereby, everybody must get to the movie thing and watch Scott Pilgrim.
Vince, what are we on, 18?
We're on one of them. We're on 18. Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knight.
Oh, I've never seen that.
I really like it.
You've told me about it.
I don't know if it just hit me at the right time, because I really don't like Bordello of Blood that much, and I've never had the I've had the opportunity, but I've never really taken the opportunity to sit down and watch Tales from the Crypt or Vault of Horror, and meaning the older ones.
Oh, really?
And
I thought you'd seen some Tales from the Crypt.
I mean, not the TV show. I have seen Tales from the Crypt, the TV show.
I was going to say, I thought you'd watched that, yeah.
But they made a movie prior to that.
I gotcha, okay.
I forget whether that was the 70s or 80s that they made it. I didn't know there
was that much of it.
There's at least, I think there might be 5 Tales from the Crypt movies. Well, if you include Vault of Horror.
So the movies, does the Crypt Keeper actually open them?
You know what? It's been so long since I've seen it. I just have this pit in my stomach that I just have so much love for this movie. And all I really remember is the main actor, who's the same guy, who I never remember his name. He played the president in Iron Man 3.
Oh, yes, and he was also the Section 31 guy in Deep Space Nine. Yeah, that's where I primarily know him from. Yeah, Victor Sloan.
I think that guy's a heck of an actor.
Detective Sloan. Is Victor actually his first? I don't know.
Who knows?
Just Sloan. Anyway, I'm sorry.
That guy.
Go ahead. That guy. The guy who wears black.
That movie's a really interesting movie. I mean, it brings in a lot of... it's a horror movie that is kind of hinging on these like pseudo-religious ideas. It's kind of... it's not alternate history, it's like alternate Christian mythology. And I'm not going to say it really pulls much from Christianity, but it does interesting things with it. So I support that movie. Largely, the meat of that movie is a bunch of people holed up trying not to be killed by demons, hence Demon Knight. But, so, I like it.
That sounds a little bit like Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah, I can see that, but it's a little more intense than Night of the Living Dead. And, I don't know, if we were doing a top horror movies, this might not have made it.
Okay, yeah.
Because Night of the Living Dead, and even the remake of Night of the Living Dead would have been on there before this one, but I like this movie a lot.
If we did a top horror films, I'd probably put a lot of really bad things on there, just because I haven't seen enough really good horror movies. Things that people purport to be really good horror movies.
There are really good horror movies out there. Hence why I put one on this list.
Yeah.
But, and I'm not going to say this one's critically amazing. I mean, of course you have movies that should rank above this one, and I've talked about them before. But I like it. I think it's worth watching. What's yours? Good sir.
Once again, I wouldn't have thought of that. My number 18 is Constantine.
I was really close. Really close.
I like that movie a lot. I'm well aware that it doesn't have a whole lot to do with John Constantine and Hellblazer, but I also saw Constantine before I ever knew anything about Hellblazer. And I like Keanu Reeves more than a lot of people do, and I enjoyed the universe they created. And I really love its kind of occult quirkiness and how it knows how preposterous it is. When it starts, and you can take it seriously on a level. The story is there, but it's a really out there world, and it knows it. And when it starts saying things like the devil had a son too, and the devil had his own Bible, it treats it like this stuff is really ridiculous, because it is. But then everybody inside of the movie totally takes it seriously. It's also one of the only movies I've ever seen where I really like Shia LaBeouf. This was before Shia LaBeouf was really big, and he plays a sidekick in that, and he's great in it. But yeah, so anyway, that's one of my favorite Keanu Reeves movies, incidentally, also.
It's interesting how our two choices are kind of lined up in weird ways.
Yeah, because it's kind of a horror thing.
Yeah, it's kind of a horror thing. It's kind of a religious thing.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's another movie that my wife and I watch a lot. That's one of Sarah's favorite movies. She would have put that way higher than I did.
Yeah, I like it. It's one of my wife's favorites, too.
Oh, really? Yeah, I didn't know you liked. I don't think you and I have ever had a conversation about Constantine.
Constantine and Tremors. Go figure.
Really?
That and Amelie.
Elena and Tremors. All right.
Yeah, she loves Tremors.
Interesting.
Constantine, and then what I like to call tea-drinking movies. Things like, Jane Austen movies.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All right.
Granted, she loves the books, too, so there's a reason for that.
Yeah. Well, your wife's a big reader.
Oh, my goodness. She put most anybody... No, don't go to sleep. I need you.
What is your number 17?
My number 17 is the animated 2007 feature, Doctor Strange.
I still have not seen that.
It's one of those movies that hit me at the right time in the right way.
Pretty high on your list for what it is.
Yeah.
I'm surprised.
It's not necessarily a movie that's so unique in the way it's written, but that it's a movie that I feel like people would have given less credit to than what it deserved, because it holds together, and it tries to give some reason for why or how magic works in its universe. It tries to give some reason for why Doctor Strange, it makes him a character who needs redemption and looks for it, but you don't hate him along the way. There's just reasons to not like him at the beginning, and then he works towards it. So it's interesting how all of this stuff fits together, and why is this guy the next Sorcerer Supreme and all this stuff. It is an origin movie, but I feel like Doctor Strange needed one, and I'm satisfied with that.
Wow, yeah. Now, I've been told by people that are big Doctor Strange fans, of course I'm not, I don't know a great deal about the character, folks have told me that it's a great movie, but that it kind of strays away from comic book Doctor Strange.
It does, and I don't care.
Yeah, well, if it's really good, then it's really good, yeah.
I thought it was worthwhile. There's things in there that I went, that's odd, because I don't recall that. I don't think that happened. Granted, I haven't read much Doctor Strange, but I have in the past gone searching through some Doctor Strange, I keep wanting to say Doctor Who, some Doctor Strange storylines in like Wikipedia and just random comics, and like it conflicts, but I don't care. I like it. What's yours?
My number 17... Oh, I just realized how odd... Okay, anyway, I'll mention that in a minute. My number 17 is Batman Forever. Yeah, I know.
Well, I mean, it's not like it's the bad one. It's just the not as good one.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's great. I put it on there somewhat for the sake of nostalgia, and I have a difficult time getting away from my nostalgia for certain things. One thing you've got to realize is that I'm a big Jim Carrey fan, and that's one of the movies that I remember the most, solidifying my love for Jim Carrey. So there's that. I'm a big Riddler fan, and I actually like Jim Carrey's Riddler. A lot of people don't. I get that. It's fair. But I'm also a big Frank Gorshin fan, and he was channeling Gorshin a lot in that, and found a way, in my opinion, to, in a pseudo-serious thing, be able to do the somewhat campy Gorshin Riddler without feeling as campy. Like I always thought that Gorshin could have played the Riddler in a serious thing pretty much exactly the way he played it, with different dialogue and different motivations. And Jim Carrey kind of did that, except that the script just wasn't as good as it could have been. So yeah, the other thing is Batman Forever was... I was 12 when that came out. That was a really big summer for me. I have a lot of fond memories and a lot of fondness for that movie. So again, this is a list of things that we're most likely to put in. I almost didn't even put this on my list until it occurred to me that I tend to put this in the player a couple times a year. it just happens. I tend to sit down and watch this one. So anyway, I guess I'm almost apologizing for that choice, Vince, but
I think it's perfectly fine. I mean, I think it's not an awful movie. It's just not traditional Riddler. I mean, it's kind of taking the Riddler.
It is.
It's kind of taking the Riddler and the Mad Hatter and jamming them together.
Mad Hatter? Really?
Yeah,
I've never heard anybody say that.
The Mad Hatter is
Really?
essentially the mind control guy in the Batman universe.
Okay, yeah, you're right. No, you're right. Technology-wise,
you're things on their heads.
Yes, you win. Technology-wise, you're absolutely right. But a lot of people felt like he was like he and Two-Face in the same movie. They were both channeling Joker too much.
Yeah, I really felt that about Two-Face, but the Riddler, I felt it was a more Gorshin-like.
Yeah, which is what I liked about it.
Gorshin-esque.
Gorshin-esque.
I like that one more. Gorshin-esque.
And also, I will reveal that that just because we only had so many slots and I didn't want Batman to be all over this list, or at least too much all over this list, I didn't put the 66 Batman movie on here, but I almost did. And just because of that. Really the big reason I didn't is because there are a lot of episodes of that show that I actually like a little bit more than the film, so...
Oh, well, some days you just can't get rid of a bomb.
Like, Gorshin's in it, and he's fun, but he has his best moments in the TV show, so... Anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Don't judge! The Fantastic Four.
I knew that was coming.
The 2005 release.
This is fun. This is fun. Both of our 17s we're kind of apologizing for.
Yeah. I like the Fantastic Four. I think there are several mistakes, and there are certain scenes that were cut out that needed that moment in the movie, but not the way that they did it when they cut it out.
You're absolutely right.
We really needed more Alicia Ben Grimm stuff, but we didn't get it. Why? Because the stuff they shot was this pseudo-porn weird stuff that didn't make any sense.
It didn't.
I was like, it would have been... How sweet of a scene would it have been to have had the Thing sitting there all awkwardly, twiddling his thumbs while she's cleaning him, looking at this guy like a doctor does. I mean, well, sort of looking at him.
Yeah.
But I love that movie. I have an emotional reaction. The thing that got me into comic books was the Fantastic Four, which is not to say that it's the first comic book I ever read, but because I had comic books all the way growing up, just random bizarre ones that I never really got into collecting. But one summer I got Mark Waid's run on the Fantastic Four, and it's history. I just love comic books as a result of the Fantastic Four, and then having this not terrible movie. It's not terrible. It's just not very good.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about it. I liked it less when I did a rewind on it. I wish I had never had to critically look at that movie ever, because I had a lot of fun with it when it came out. And the biggest problem with it is there's just not much of a story there at all. The story is people get superpowers and they deal with the fact that they have superpowers. That's that movie, but the casting was mostly pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I heard a lot of people complain about the stiffness, ironically, of Ian Grufford, and then
I actually liked him.
I thought he was fine.
Yeah, I thought he was fine too.
And then also people complained about Jessica Alba, but
yeah,
I would more complain that Johnny Storm's character was a little shallow. And I mean, Jessica Alba, she's not an awful actress. I mean, she's not an Academy Award.
I think she was bad for that role. I can't buy her as a scientist. At the very moment you say she's a brilliant scientist, I mean, you've lost me. You've completely lost me. She was a lot worse in the sequel.
I'll agree with that.
That was the big thing. But yeah, and about Johnny Storm being shallow, well, they cut out his best scene.
Yeah.
Or at least they cut out his most character-defining scene.
I think that Jessica Alba... I don't think they ever really hammered down what her character was supposed to be.
Well...
I feel like
again, shallow is the word.
And I think the reason she's worse in the second movie is because they tried to make her something she wasn't in the first. So they tried to make her more of a nagging wife type. They tried to make her a little, which wasn't necessary and isn't even accurate. I mean, I find that annoying, but I still like the second movie. It's not on my list because it's not.
Yeah.
But I like the first one. Anywho, what's your 16? Or 16? Are we on 16?
I guess we are on 16. I thought I thought we both just did 17, but you were going before me. So that was your 16.
All of my numbers are hidden. I'm not sure why.
My 16 is The Mask, and I did not do this on purpose right next to Batman Forever. I can't believe that happened.
I thought about The Mask.
I love The Mask. What a great movie. I'm not apologizing for that. I think The Mask is a solid comic book movie. It's almost, I mean, I did it on a superhero rewind. It's nearly a superhero movie. What's neat, and I said this when I reviewed it. What's neat is the Mask and Stanley Ipkiss are, I mean, it does have a villain in it, but they are practically antagonists in that film, where like Stanley Ipkiss sort of becomes the superhero at the end, and I really like that about it. It's a very funny movie, but it's got a grounded story also. So it's, I think. It's cool that that's the big thing that jump-started Jim Carrey's career right after he made
Was it Ace Ventura?
Ace Ventura, because Ace Ventura really is kind of just a straight and narrow parody farcical movie.
Just a guy talking out his butt.
And The Mask has The Mask has him doing all that crazy rubber face silly stuff. But there's a real story behind it, and it has things to say. And
Stanley Ipkiss is a guy. He's a person who has thoughts and feelings, and he's interesting.
And ironically, at the same time as it was going on that, being a star vehicle for him and going on the rubber face thing, he's also playing his own straight man, which is really neat to see. To The Mask. I mean, he has to play the wacky cartoon character, but then he also has to play the straight man of the piece. That's cool.
You know, it's interesting. He's almost a straight man to Richard Jeni's character.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I like Richard Jeni in that movie, too. And that movie has a heck of a soundtrack.
Yeah, it's got a great soundtrack.
Love it.
Yeah, I really like that movie. It was almost farther up on the list. Anyway, go ahead.
Let's see here. After Fantastic Four, I have X-Men 2.
X2.
Yeah, there's not a lot to say. I don't feel like that movie really needs defending. I just like it a lot, reason being because it's a good movie. I chose X-Men 2 over X-Men 1 because I feel like X-Men 2, by the time they get to the sequel, they really hammer down what the pacing needs to be. And it's a movie that just holds water. I think it's really solid.
Okay. Let's see. What do I have next? Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, Spider-Man 2.
You know what's funny? Spider-Man appears nowhere on my list.
Really?
Really.
See, this was tough for me because I wanted to put... There was a part of me that wanted to put both Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2 on here. Once again, it's somewhat of a nostalgia thing, but nostalgia is not the right word. These were kind of like you had with some of the things you said earlier on your list, movies that that really solidified my love for comic book films. Mm-hmm. And granted, growing up, some of the first movies I saw were comic book films. Ninja Turtles, Batman '89. So some of the earliest things I got really into were those kinds of movies. And so I always had a hope that the big onslaught of superhero movies that we have now would happen, but I think that part of the reason that I have that there's such a place for the Spider-Man, at least the first two Sam Raimi movies, for me, is that they showed me that this was going to happen. You know what I mean? I was like, okay, this is going to become a thing now. These are just really watchable and fun. And I mean, yeah, I've got all kinds of problems with them, I've said this a million times. I don't like Kirsten Dunst in those movies. I don't like how they characterize that character. And again, it was tough to pick between the two. I didn't feel like I could put both of them on here, so I picked Spider-Man 2 over the original because I just think it's a better movie overall. But then the first one's got Dafoe, and that's the tough thing for me, is that Green Goblin is so good in that. So anyway, that's the difficulty. And yeah, they're pretty formulaic. The first one more than the second. They kind of established what partly along with. To a degree, along with '89, but especially just by itself, the original Sam Raimi Spider-Man kind of established the kind of formulaic model for especially the comic book movies that were going to be origin films. And so it's kind of a catch-22 because it sort of set up all the stuff that I kind of hate about some of these, but at least it didn't do the formula thing that Batman Returns set up, which was it didn't have to have neither of those have two villains, and neither of them they both kill a villain off. I guess that's kind of an established thing, sort of irritating. Anyway, so I don't know, but at the end of the day, I love watching them. I still really like watching those movies.
You know, I couldn't I guess maybe I didn't put Spider-Man on here because I couldn't decide. Like, each one of them had something that kind of brought it down for me.
Yeah.
Spider-Man 1, too formulaic. Spider-Man 2, the thing about him losing his powers I thought was...
I don't like that either.
Silly. And then Spider-Man... Well, Amazing Spider-Man. Spider-Man 3, but...
Yeah, sure.
And Amazing Spider-Man... there was too much cut out of the movie that was necessary.
That's why I didn't put that, and I will say I didn't put that on my list, and I almost did. But that's the thing is, every time I watch Amazing Spider-Man, I've only seen it 2 or 3 times. Yeah. I'm just like, it's missing some of the meat. I'm
not gonna say that Spider-Man is easy to do as a film. I'm just saying that they've gotten so close. Like, the first one had so much tonally correct.
You're right.
And then Amazing Spider-Man had so much going for it that would have been good had they had scenes that were necessary. But in Spider-Man 2, I think they made a lot of really good choices. It wasn't necessarily as tonally appropriate as I feel like the first one was.
Would you at least agree that it's just technically a better movie than the first one?
Yeah, I mean, it's a more ambitious movie. It tries to achieve things with characterization and plot
that's what I mean. Yeah.
Than the first one does. So I like the second. You know, I liked the second one more when it came out in theaters, but I couldn't bring myself to like certain things about it. I mean, yeah. Alex Ross calls it a dumb movie, and I think that's unfair. But I feel like there's some dumb choices, or maybe some unwise choices. But it's not bad. I like it.
Go ahead.
All right. See here, after X2, Iron Man. So Iron Man is
Alex Ross even drew pictures for those.
Yeah, he called it a dumb movie.
That's hilarious. I'm sorry, go ahead.
It was in Wizard. It said anyway. So Iron Man. I like Iron Man. I feel like I will defend Iron Man against anybody in this room. Anyway,
I'm not gonna argue with it.
I know. That's why I said it. I'm going to argue with anybody in this room full of people that I emailed. It's a Patton Oswalt joke. I love that joke. Anyway, Iron Man, I was kind of on the edge. Iron Man 3, mainly because Iron Man stands on its own, and Iron Man 3 is dependent upon Iron Man 1, 2, and Avengers. So I think Iron Man 3 is more exciting. I don't think it's necessarily more satisfying than Iron Man 1.
I will agree with that 100%.
And that's why I put Iron Man 1 on here. I mean, I don't need it to be more exciting. Although the next one, that's the exact reason why I chose it. But I don't need it to be more exciting. I like it for what it is.
I chose... Okay. So, my number 14, and I went rounds in my head about this. And I also... Let me preface this by saying that this was really tough because... I know I'm going to get some flack for this. This was really tough because I haven't yet, and this is probably too high on my list, honestly. I haven't yet figured out exactly what my relationship is with this movie yet, but based on how it made me feel...
Well, just go to Facebook and put It's Complicated.
Based on how it made me feel both times I saw it, Man of Steel.
Yeah, I considered putting that in my 21 slot.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, I did it. Right now, that is how I feel about it. And I understand people's criticisms. I understand why for a lot of people it wasn't Superman. I get why people think it's a really joyless film. Those are not the reactions I had to it when I saw it, and it hit me in the right places.
Man of Steel.
Is it perfect? Well, not even close. It's got all kinds of tonal issues. Well, see, that's the thing, is that it didn't for me, but then I see why it does for people. You know what I mean? Like,
I feel like Man of Steel is suffering from, not exactly the same, but it's suffering from lost scenes. I feel like...
I think you're absolutely right.
There's too much that's condensed for that film, and I don't necessarily think that those lost scenes are completely absent, but I think that maybe they thought they were making up for it with something that didn't fully compensate.
Yeah. The thing with Man of Steel, and the reason I felt the need to put it on here is that there was so much in it that I had been waiting to see for a Superman movie, and I do like Superman's characterization in the movie, and I do think that it is a movie about hope, and I liked and I liked thematically what it did in exploring that idea. But the big thing is just it's finally a comic book Superman movie and a science fiction Superman movie. And I had really been waiting for that. I got the Krypton stuff I had been waiting to see. Again, I get why some people don't like it, but it was what I was waiting for.
The Krypton stuff was welcome for me. I'm not saying anything against that. I'm just saying it didn't need the Krypton stuff. What it needed was the step in the right direction, which is to make it a science fiction Superman movie.
Yeah.
And so Krypton stuff was great. I enjoyed that. But what I was super pleased about was that it was science fiction and Superman. Kind of like Batman was, or, Batman Begins was crime drama, and Batman. Well, Dark Knight was more crime drama.
Yeah.
But
so I still feel like maybe I put this too high on my list. I don't know, but right now that's how I feel about it.
Indeed.
Go ahead.
Blade 2.
That was almost on here.
Blade 2. Man, reason I chose Blade 2 over Blade 1 is they essentially follow...
Because it's a better movie?
Well, they essentially follow the same plot line. I mean, there's a new kind of vampire, and you gotta destroy it. And, which happens significantly later in Blade 1 than it does in Blade 2, but, the new kind of vampire. But, Blade 1, it was less interesting. It was okay, but it was less interesting. It was a little simpler. And then you get to Blade 2, and you have this plot line that seems like somebody said, well, we had a skeleton, let's put some meat on it. And that was so interesting to me, just how much fuller of a movie Blade 2 was. So I loved it. I enjoyed it. And also, Wesley Snipes, I think, did a great job as Blade. Not so much in Blade Trinity, but apparently there's history to that.
Right.
So, I
Don't
really
fear the Reaper, man.
Don't fear the Reaper. I liked Blade 2. Anyway, what's yours?
Let's put that on here. My 13 is Iron Man.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, fair enough. It's almost like I don't know, I was going to make some crap joke, but let's move on.
Iron Man is, in my mind, one of, I'm not going to say the best, it's one of the best origin films, in that it's a superhero movie, but it works on another level than that, and I'm not bored waiting for him to finally become a superhero, because I'm more enthralled with his character, his larger-than-life persona, than I am with just the little kid in me that says, he's got to be in costume, hurry up and put the costume on, you know what I mean? And and Downey just owns that role.
Yeah,
I mean, he's one of the best actors we've ever had, owning a superhero and making it his own. And like with you were talking about Daredevil earlier. When I saw Daredevil, I got interested in reading Daredevil comics. When I saw Iron Man, I suddenly was like, oh, Iron Man's cool. I didn't realize Iron Man was cool. And then I read comic books, and he wasn't really like he was in the movies.
Yeah.
And I realized that, at least for my taste, for me personally, the Iron Man movie made Iron Man a better character. So it has to be on my list. It improved on the character for me.
It kind of drives me nuts when people say things like, well, Robert Downey Jr., is Iron Man. He's perfect. He's right off the page. I'm like, no, he's perfect, but he's not right off the page.
Yeah, he improved the page. He made it better.
It's a different character.
I mean, yeah, sometimes there have been some comic book things written after that have tried to mimic the movie Iron Man and haven't been as good.
Yeah.
But Fraction integrated in his run, what I've read of it, quite a bit of that personality, and made it better.
Right.
Go ahead.
All right. The Punisher, the 2004 one. Why? Because
you love The Punisher.
Why that one? I love it. I think it's cool. And I really enjoy his character arc, and I don't think it's as bad of a movie as people give it guff for. And,
no, I don't think it is either.
And it drives me nuts when, frankly, I'll be honest with you, I understand that the biggest problem that people tend to have with it is, one, it's not set in New York, and two, John Travolta, and not set in New York, fair assessment. Fair. John Travolta, that's not fair at all.
I mean, it's fine.
Why does everybody have to do, it doesn't have to be some goon from the middle of some big inner city. I mean, just let the mob be the mob. They don't have to be caricatures. I mean...
Though now that you've done that, you have to do an entire show like that one of these days.
How you doing, eh? Come over here. Sit on Santa's lap. Give him all your candy. You say Halloween? Why'd I put the Santa suit on? I don't know what that was about.
Here, have some Cadbury cream eggs. I've saved them all year.
Shove this in your face and go tell your mom you're crying.
So Thomas Jane Punisher.
So Thomas Jane Punisher, I like it. Anyway, moving on. Cap, what's yours?
Oh, by the way, some people have asked what you thought of that little short fan film that he did.
Oh, I feel like that's
the Dirty Laundry thing or whatever it was called.
I feel like I loved that.
Yeah, I liked it a lot too.
And frankly, that needed to exist in order for the last scene of the 2004 Punisher movie to exist.
Is that weird?
Because when he moves from I'm getting revenge into this isn't revenge, this is punishment, I'm like, not quite. So far it's been revenge. This is a revenge movie. You're killing the people that killed those people because you didn't want those people to be killed by those people. Or anyone else for that matter.
Have some Cabernet Creek.
Put this on, anyway. So, so I think that movie, or that short, was probably about as brutal as a Punisher movie maybe ought to be. Doesn't need to be, but maybe ought to be. And
I mean, they shouldn't go past that line.
I don't think they should go past that line. Okay. I think it maybe ought to be that brutal because it's pretty brutal. I mean,
yeah, it was.
And then you get that movie, that needs to exist because that's really the character-defining moment where he moves from revenge to punishment because he's just out and about by himself and he decides, well, I can do something about this. Maybe I ought to. And I loved it. I thought it was... I consider it part of the 2004 Punisher movie. Not for the sake of this list or reality, but when I think of it, it just makes it a better experience for me.
You know, I didn't appreciate it as much until you suggested that.
Oh, yeah?
And then I watched it again, and I was like, you're absolutely right. It was so much better after you told me that.
It was... Because by itself, it just looks like a guy who goes, I guess I can do something about this, and then kills a bunch of people.
Yeah.
It's not... interesting by itself. It's interesting as a supplement to the movie.
My number 12 is Men in Black.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have a lot of nostalgia for... I never put that in because I'm just not interested to watch it.
Oh, okay. All right.
But I do like it.
It's definitely one of my favorite movies, yeah.
Now, I want to know more. Why you like it so much?
Well, it's one of those things that that kind of helped establish my sense of humor as a kid. And remember that's Barry Sonnenfeld, and Barry Sonnenfeld did the live-action Tick series. So like those sensibilities are real close. That's my kind of sense of humor. Those are my kind of jokes. And I've always been interested in the kind of quirky. Let me see if I can figure out how to word this. The kind of quirky mystery story that you can take seriously, but it's in a heightened reality, and there is all this kind of like goofy alien stuff in the background, but nobody knows about it. I love that kind of stuff. I love the sort of like hidden world inside of the real world, so that you can imagine. It's not just we went to this other universe. It's that you can imagine that our world is the Men in Black world. That we just don't see all that stuff happening, behind the scenes. I love the aesthetic of it. I've always liked Will Smith. Growing up, I think Will Smith was maybe that other actor that I was growing up with, like with Jim Carrey. You know what I mean? I had that. I liked Independence Day a lot when I was a kid. I watched Fresh Prince. I mean, I liked I liked him a lot. And Tommy Lee Jones in that is great. And it's surprisingly good as a buddy cop thing.
Yeah, and Tommy Lee Jones being the straight man. I mean, the heightened reality I think is not quite as good if there's nobody that's just this is normal.
Yeah, exactly. Brandon and I did a commentary on that a few months back, and it kind of brought back all that old love for it that I kind of forgot I had.
Maybe I should go back and watch it. Maybe it'll do that. For me, who knows?
Maybe so.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
See what's next. All right. Batman: Mask of the Phantasm. I like that movie. Enough said. I don't know. I mean,
pretty high on your list, though. I mean, why is it as high as it is?
It's one of those things that just caught me a little off guard, and I think going back, I had to watch it and then separate it from the TV show.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it fits so well within the confines of the TV show, but it also it's its own thing. I mean, it's a movie that exists within a universe that you don't really have to know a heck of a lot about, and also this woman is so interesting, and I just feel like all the characters are really given credit, and I mean, this is a movie that gives an example for why narrative and serious movies can be done in animation. I mean, it doesn't all have to be the easy traditional schlock that people tend to go, we'll make this an animated movie. Why? Because it's cheaper.
Yeah, I mean, it's a movie for adults that's done in animation.
And that's essentially what it is I feel like that might be the first time Batman's really gotten a fair shake on the big screen.
Yeah, definitely.
Including, and that includes, I do like the '89 Batman movie, but I think that might be a better movie, Mask of the Phantasm.
I think it's definitely a better story.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, most certainly.
What you got, Cap?
My next one is X-Men First Class.
Yeah?
Yes.
Well, that's cool.
I just did a review of it, so I don't feel I need to talk much about it. But, it had some weird continuity things, but it's got such an interesting, complicated story, and I just really like all of the acting in that movie. But anyway, yeah, no need to talk a lot about it. But yes, First Class I think is fantastic.
I agree. I like it a lot.
Okay, your turn.
Let's see here. Well, just to break from this whole Batman thing, The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
I really like The Dark Knight. I mean...
in our defense, there are a lot of Batman movies.
Yeah, and I only have 3 on here, right? Batman Beyond, Return of the Joker, Mask of the Phantasm, and The Dark Knight. I like it a lot. I mean, I feel like this is...
That was 4.
Kind of the... Wait, it was?
You just said 4 movies.
Batman Beyond, Return of the Joker?
Oh, no. You said 3 movies.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I thought you said 4 movies.
I did split it up.
You did.
I did.
The way you said that, yeah, I wasn't even thinking. Sorry, go ahead.
It was a séjour. I was giving it dramatic... Anyway.
Okay.
So, Dark Knight, mainly because I feel like this is really what solidified Two-Face for me, and so there is kind of a this little bit of a fanboy in me where I'm like, he's really cool, but there's also it's a really, really good movie that has minor issues throughout. I mean, it's a very solid flick.
My next one, not to get it all away from this Batman thing, is 89.
Yep.
Batman 89. And I kind of even probably should have put it a little higher. The thing is, I don't think 89 is a critically great movie. That's one that I've said a million times I should probably go back and do a proper analysis of, and really look at it more critically than I have before. At the same time, it's one I put in all the time.
I'm about half surprised it's not your number one, considering how many times you've actually seen it.
I've been watching that movie, forever. Just like since I was a kid.
So what you're saying is you've been watching Batman forever.
Yeah. The fact that critically better things have come out since Batman 89 has not changed my love for it.
And it shouldn't.
Yeah. I still love it. For what it is, and not just for the nostalgia thing. There's still a lot to like in that movie.
Yeah.
The first time I realized just how much was wrong with it, it hurt my feelings, but once I got over that...
The fact that you said hurt your feelings struck me funny. Oh, why aren't you better than you are?
I don't know. Maybe that should have been higher. I don't think I watch it quite as much as I used to, but yeah, I really love that movie. So, there it is.
Looking at my list, I'm thinking, I don't disagree with my list, but this is weird.
Go ahead.
All right. Road to Perdition.
I've not seen that.
It's really worthwhile.
I need to get around to it. I've got it. I just haven't done it yet.
I like that movie a lot. First of all, Tom Hanks. He's a seasoned actor. He's fantastic. He's amazing in most everything. I mean, I'll
agree with that.
I like Tom Hanks in movies that are bad. I don't care. I love Tom Hanks. I think he's a heck of an actor. And this is not a bad movie. I mean, how often do you get to see Tom Hanks play a master criminal, let alone a hitman? I mean, Tom Hanks, not to say that he hasn't played that in other movies, but, you go back to the 80s, he was this happy-go-lucky guy. And then you get a little more forward, and he plays these dramatic roles. And it's a little out of his traditional wheelhouse, but you know what? He's fantastic. And I think that maybe it's Road to Perdition. Maybe it's just Tom Hanks that makes me like it so much. And I also love that the whole world is just the look of the movie is just dripping with that era. It's fantastic.
My number nine.
Number whatever. I don't know. I've lost count.
Yeah. Okay. My next one is Mask of the Phantasm.
Yeah, fair enough.
In '89 are kind of right there.
Yeah.
I think I only put Mask of the Phantasm above it because I think it's technically a better movie. I don't know that I really would put it in over '89, so it's not quite right. But
that's funny.
You know, it's tough. The Batman movies are tough for me because I like so many of them. And there are several that I would have liked to, or at least a couple I would have liked to have put on this list that I didn't. I really wanted to include Return of the Joker, and I just couldn't find a spot for it. I'll say this because I didn't get around to putting it on here. I really wanted to put Under the Red Hood on here.
Yeah, I liked it.
And the difficulty with Under the Red Hood is I've watched it maybe twice, and I loved it, but it's not one that I think to watch again.
Yeah, I mean, I liked it a lot. I just thought the second act was a bit too short. So that kind of, it didn't ruin it for me. I was just, it would never occur to me to put it in based on the fact that I liked it. I thought it was good. I just didn't feel like it got enough credit within its own movie.
Yeah, it's tough because they only have so many minutes to work with.
Yeah, I mean, you can't blame certain people for it. It's just sometimes stuff happens.
I said that. Now I kind of feel like watching that again, so I should have put that on here. Anyway, go ahead.
All right.
These lists are entirely arbitrary. Go ahead, Vince.
Heavy metal.
What?
Yep.
Really?
God, I love heavy metal.
Can I go on record to say I don't like that movie?
Really?
Yeah.
At all?
I have a tough time with it. I like the music. And the animation style is really interesting. The whole thing is interesting. It's just not my cup of tea, man.
I mean, that's what it is for me. I mean, it's pretty much an issue of heavy metal on the screen.
Yeah.
And I think the vignettes are so interesting, and I love
that high on your list.
And I love heavy metal.
I didn't know that.
And I'm not going to say that it's better than these other movies that are below it. I'm just saying I love heavy metal, and I love how they take that either pearl or giant friggin' orb.
Yeah, it's an orb. It's a big green space orb.
And they move it from story to story, so there's some kind of connection between each of these things. And the connection doesn't make sense, which, I mean, why did these things all get connected by this? I kind of maybe wanted an overall story, but whatever. I personally, at this point, there's so much nostalgia attached to this thing, because this movie made me feel like I was watching something adult, and when I was younger, and I mean, it came out before either of us were born.
Oh yeah, it did.
But it's not necessarily a solid movie, but it's a really interesting stylized movie, and so maybe I can't get behind certain modern stylized things, but for when I was a kid, apparently I cannot separate that because I just love it.
You're picking stuff based on that too.
Yeah, no, and it was an inevitability.
Yeah. Man,
I'm glad I got that out in one breath.
Well done. My next one is Daredevil, and specifically the director's cut. That movie was a big deal for me senior year of high school when it came out. The style of that thing was just hitting me in all the right places at the time.
Michael Clark Duncan.
Oh yeah.
Need we say more?
But a lot of it for me was also just the atmosphere of it. This is going to sound really stupid, man. It made me want to go hang out on rooftops. It was that kind of thing, you know. It made me want to go out at night. I had a very I don't know. I had an experience with that movie, and yeah, the story made no freaking sense. But
the theatrical cut,
and then when the director's cut came out, and I found out that it used to be a good movie. Then I loved it even more because I had...
The theatrical cut then hurt your feelings?
Then the theatrical cut hurt my feelings. Yeah, me and the theatrical cut had a discussion, and it asked for an apology, and I couldn't do it. I said no. Yeah, and really it was just that producer who ripped all that stuff out. Yeah, I told him no. I said no.
You know what's interesting is that the Daredevil movie that I really want is a Daredevil movie that would make me not want to go out at night.
Interesting.
Yeah, I want something that's gritty and creepy and difficult to deal with.
I think it was as gritty as it could be and still be okay for kids at all.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that.
Yeah, the thing is, like Stan Lee has gone on record to say he didn't like the style because he doesn't like the Miller Daredevil. He likes what he did. You know, he likes the lighter Daredevil.
Right.
And that, I think, for the time, bridged the gap. I mean, you know, I say for the time, boy, it doesn't feel that long ago for me, but like now we've made these darker superhero movies that we're still merchandising for children and making the storybooks and the coloring books and the toys and things like that, and like we get away with more of that. So my point is, I think that when they do the reboot, you're probably going to get something closer to what you're wanting.
Yeah, I'm hoping that it's good.
That would be my guess. But I don't feel like you have to just go to Miller. I think there's lots of other ways to do Daredevil.
Yeah. I think that regardless of the anticlimactic ending, I think oh my goodness, Kevin Smith's Daredevil I think is fantastic.
Oh, it's wonderful. Yeah.
And Bendis's Daredevil, there's so much that can be drawn from Bendis's Daredevil.
Yeah.
It's great.
And of course, I'm loving Wade's Daredevil, but I don't know that you could really do a lot with it on screen. But I mean, you know, I'm saying there are a lot of different ways to do that character.
Well,
yeah.
Post The Wolverine, we'll see. I mean, The Wolverine was really comic booky, which I didn't. A really traditional comic book.
I only
didn't
mean
necessarily
that.
Care for.
Yeah, with Wade's Daredevil, I only mean that because so much of it was borrowing from things that had come before.
Oh, okay, fair
that
enough.
I don't think a lot of it would translate to screen because I think you would need some of that first. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because it's a blend of Miller and Bendis and at least tonally Lee. You know. So anyway,
it's a continuity issue, is what you're saying.
Do yourself a favor and read some of that. I know you haven't done it yet.
I read an issue. But
I'm saying that no, because
it was connected to the Punisher.
You've got to read the first 27 because that's
really?
The first 27 issues are in arc. And the thing with Wade's Daredevil is you are mentioning things that I didn't read that inform it in spades.
That's
and it's for you in a lot of ways. So I mean, you should do yourself a favor and do it. Anyway, I think it's your turn.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Captain America: The First Avenger.
Wow, I almost put that on.
I loved that movie, and you know that's there's another movie on here that rings true to this statement, but it just accurately emulates a certain style of storytelling while still being modern for its time. So
well said.
Granted, you know, Captain America is still in its time, but it's a good movie. And, I mean, there are things about it that maybe could have been a little faster paced, sure. But it's like a movie serial. It's really interesting. So, and also, I think that the casting in it was really pretty great. Not Paul. Whatever the guy's name that played Dr. Erskine.
Yeah, I don't know his name.
Oh, God.
I just don't know that.
I almost said Paul Giamatti, but that is not it.
Yeah, I just don't know that.
It's not even close. He's going to be the Rhino. But that guy, I forget what his name is. And I've seen him in a lot of things, but I just love him. Oh, Stanley Tucci. That's his name.
One thing that that movie really had going for it is we don't get to see a lot of superhero period pieces.
Yeah.
And I think, regardless of the weirdness that it caused for the rest of the X-Men movies, that kind of helped First Class also. But just because it was a really good period piece in my mind. But Captain America really had that going for it because that's what everybody would have wanted.
Yeah, I feel like studios tend to think that the audience would prefer something modern over something that's period, but you can tell a relevant story that's set in a different time period. I mean,
absolutely, yeah. And people still love that, and I mean the Western has made a comeback, and we're still doing World War II pieces all the freaking time, and yeah.
I really enjoyed Captain America. Anyway, what's your number whatever?
My number whatever.
Do you have your number still on your list?
Yeah, I think we're on 8, maybe 7 or 8. Yeah, 8. My number 8 is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
Yes.
I agree. I like it.
Yeah, that's still one that I put in at least once a year. Again, a big part of my childhood, but also surprisingly holds up well.
Yeah, number 1's fantastic. 2 and 3, but yeah. Number 1 is fantastic.
It's really watchable.
It's so interesting. And I love all the father-son stuff that happens between Splinter and the Turtles.
Yeah.
And I love the conundrum that April happens to get herself into just with this world that is bizarre outside of her own.
Yeah, and the visual aesthetic is really pretty.
It's super ugly,
And
which is what's
gritty.
interesting.
It's kind of what you were wanting for Daredevil.
Yeah,
I'm mentioning that because the Eastman and Laird Ninja Turtles was making fun of Miller. You know, I mean, they were thinking Daredevil when they did that. So it's interesting to keep that in mind, that the 1990 Ninja Turtles movie looks more like Daredevil, looks more like Miller's Daredevil than Daredevil did.
I really like the Ninja Turtles. It looks like an independent feature. Now, granted, maybe it is. I don't know.
It kind of is.
It's been called like the highest budgeted or highest grossing. I forget which one it was. Independent feature.
Yeah, it is an independent feature.
And that's what I like about it. Is it just doesn't look polished. It's well done, but it's not polished.
That's why I couldn't get excited about a major studio doing a multi-million-dollar Ninja Turtles movie.
Yeah, I don't care. I'd rather have John Carpenter make it for a song.
Yeah, that's great. John Carpenter would be really interesting to put behind Ninja Turtles.
Based on Big Trouble in Little China.
Wow, I never would have thought of that, but that's really interesting.
Oh man, I love Big Trouble in Little China.
Okay, you're going.
Good movie. All right, after Captain America, A History of Violence.
I like what I saw that. I don't think I ever finished it. Somehow. For some reason. I don't know.
I like A History of Violence. Cronenberg's a heck of a director. Good actor.
But keep in mind, Vince
writer.
just likes violence.
This is true. I did take a class on it. Violence in American Cinema. But, anywho, History of Violence. Don't fall asleep! History of Violence, I loved. Why? Because I love this idea that a character can have a past. That not only is he suppressing, but nobody around him knows it exists. And then it intrudes upon his present. And then you have your entire story. More and more gets brought up, and more from the past intrudes upon the present, and then everybody has to deal with this. And it manifests itself in interesting emotional ways. I love that it wasn't just how dare you between the wife and the husband. There's also kind of a this sexual energy that she gets from it, and she looks at him and she's attracted to him and she's afraid of it. And she hates him, but she really draws him closer at the same time that she's pushing him away emotionally. It's really interesting to me. And also, you get to see a man who has been reserved throughout the whole movie, not entirely unlike Unforgiven, which is also a heck of a movie if you've not seen the Clint Eastwood Unforgiven. But you get to see a man who's been reserved throughout the whole movie.
It's also a really good Metallica song.
Indeed. Find his footing, and then scare the crap out of you when you get to the climax of the film. Why? Because you embrace, all of this stuff. If part of your past is not erased if you choose to ignore it. It's still there. There's muscle memory. There is this knowledge of how to do things. And you pull from your past and use those skills, and that makes what is otherwise a family man frightening. So I love A History of Violence.
I'm just going to pull that out, post it as a review. And
Oh, thank you.
my that was great. Well done. My next one is Watchmen. There's no way around it. I had such an experience with that movie. Yeah, it just meant a lot to me. Watching that, and frankly, I appreciated the graphic novel more after I really got into dissecting Watchmen. I loved it a lot in the theater, and I know you're not a big fan of that movie, but I loved it a lot in the theater. And then when I did my rewind on it, I liked it even more. Really getting into it and realizing how much of what was on the page really managed to make it into the movie, which is an amazing feat, given that I still say it's the unfilmable graphic novel. I still feel like you can't put that on screen and make it what it was. But it also kind of stands on its own and is kind of... Watchmen's a weird thing. I don't know if I would have liked it as well if I didn't know the source material. It's one of those, and it's maybe the best example of that, because I've talked to people that didn't read the graphic novel, loved it, but had no idea what it was about. And then I've talked to other people who didn't read the graphic novel, hated it, read the graphic novel, liked it better. You know what I mean? So it's a tough sort of thing. And honestly, I don't even know if I like if I'm really into Snyder's directing as much as I really like the visual aesthetic of that movie, but I think a lot of it was more in the casting and in the really phenomenal costume designs and stuff. I mean, it's just a really great looking movie also.
I cannot hate that movie. as many problems as I go, this is too much for me to really fully enjoy that movie.
Yeah.
But I cannot bring myself to hate it because there's quite a lot to like about it.
And also, Vince, do yourself a favor if you haven't done it, and at least one time watch the director's cut, because some of the better scenes did get cut for the theatrical version, and there's another half hour that that put back some of the stuff that. So I don't think the theatrical version is a complete movie. I mean, it was already 3 hours. They just couldn't push it farther. So yeah, just I mean, if you think you can stomach it, I think you would appreciate it more if you saw what's left out. I wouldn't tell you to bother with the 4-hour version. You don't really have to have the Black Freighter stuff, but
which I've seen the Black Freighter stuff, but
yeah, but put back into it, it's kind of interesting because the thing is I don't know if you know this, but the 4-hour version with the Black Freighter stuff put back in, it's not just adding the animation, it's also adding the short bits around it back in.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, there's more live action stuff even in the 4-hour version that's not in the 3.5-hour version. Not joking.
I think I'll eventually give the 4-hour version a shot. I just needed to remove myself from it because I kind of got hate for not liking it. So that was kind of my thing. I was like, I just want to divorce myself from this. Yeah. And eventually I'll go back and I'll watch the 4-hour version. But indeed.
I didn't hate you for not liking that movie.
Well, I'm not saying the hate came from you.
Oh, okay. All right.
And in fact, I got into several arguments. And
you got arguments with, like, individual people, yeah. Well, you and I argued about it, but that's because that's what we do, yeah.
I had one guy who was in one of my playwriting classes in college. And
this would not be as fun if we agreed all the time. We can't agree all the time, yeah.
This is the even couple. This side of the line is mine, and that side of the line is yours, but you can come to my side if you ask once in a while.
Look, this is my side of the living room, and that is your side of the living room, and must you drink straight out of the milk carton? It's disgusting!
Take that! But, what were we just talking about?
Expired April 14th.
2000 and none.
Hold on, I gotta call an ambulance so we can get your stomach pumped. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
So...
What were we talking about?
Oh yeah, there was a guy in my playwriting class that he and I had an argument, which eventually... Well, argument, i.e. discussion, but which eventually ended in him going... Stop making me not like that movie. I liked that movie before I talked to you, and I said, whatever. You can still like it if you want to.
For the record, you said all the same things to me, I'm sure, and I never stopped liking it.
That's true. Yay, it's still up on my... It fell asleep.
All right, go ahead.
After History of Violence is X-Men First Class.
Really?
Yep.
I didn't think you even put it on your list. I didn't know you even liked that movie that much.
I loved
X-Men First Class. That is really high on your list.
God, I loved X-Men First Class.
And I gotta tell you, I'm actually pretty excited that was that high. You put it higher than I did!
Now, he and I have had this thing, and maybe this is the moment where Captain realizes, Captain, I usually call you Cap, where Captain realizes that I don't hate everything that's either made in the 60s or based in the 60s.
I know, yeah.
So, I just don't like 60s television, specifically.
Yeah.
And 60s movies are these wonderful, interesting art house pieces, and and if you remove 60s movies from film history, you have removed the transition point from the production code into the ratings code, because you see these really interesting shifts between then. And things that happen in the 60s it's an emotionally charged time. I mean, that is like the big civil rights movement that our generation tends to think of.
Of course, yeah.
And so it's an interesting time to set most anything in. I mean, I don't care for movies about hippies, but this is a movie that's politically charged, and furthermore...
And it's a cool alternate history.
Yes, and it has Kevin Bacon. I'd love Kevin Bacon.
Kevin Bacon was great in that movie.
I love Kevin Bacon in just about anything, even if it's not that great. He's also... Kevin Bacon and Tom Hanks are kind of in that little pot for me. I love those guys.
Okay, let me ask you this then. Did you like James McAvoy as much as I did?
I like James McAvoy a lot, and I also liked...
Fassbender. Yeah.
And so, God, I just thought they were a heck of a team. And I felt like that movie was just, those three guys held that movie so well. I feel like there was a couple of weak casting choices, and I feel like there was a couple of, or maybe not weak casting choices, but just...
No, there was at least one.
But characters that did not get the use that they should have had.
Oh, come on. Don't you think that Emma Frost was terrible?
I think Emma Frost did not get the use she should have had. I feel like
she was an entirely different character.
Emma Frost was not a full character.
Yeah.
Emma Frost should have been something different than what she was.
That wasn't Emma Frost to me.
I kind of feel like they should have just made it someone else. If they wanted to have somebody who had no personality, they should have just made it someone. Darwin, I feel, is a huge missed opportunity.
Yeah.
Not necessarily because you had to make the whole civil rights thing blatant within that movie. But
I didn't even think of it in that way. Yeah.
It's something that I mean, first of all, he was a really interesting character. He could adapt to do anything, and really all we really got to see him do was
not adapt and die,
get blown up, and have people hit him with stuff. So he was a lot of fun, and his sacrifice meant quite a lot. Given the time period that it happened and who he was sacrificing himself for. I mean, at that moment, he's defining himself more as a mutant than he is as any other particular race. Sure. And I feel like that's something that could have been explored, or even just a footnote. I mean, and it's something that gets read into, or at least I'm reading into it.
Yeah, I never even thought about it like that.
And I just think it's such an interesting idea. This guy who can adapt and overcome, and he dies. That makes me sad. I wanted more from him. Well, I wanted the writers to give him more of a shot. But anyway, I love the movie.
I had no idea you liked that much. That's awesome. Next up, I have Avengers.
Fair enough.
That's in a lot of ways that was the comic book movie I was waiting for growing up. And it was such a big deal to have a movie that brought all these characters together that I liked from other movies and gave them a movie. And I know we were building up to that forever, and I didn't know if it was going to work. And then in my mind, it worked really well. I mean, like, yeah, it's not the deepest movie in the world. I don't know how it could have been. Well,
with an ensemble cast, it makes it a little more difficult.
Makes it more difficult, and it felt like it's the most like reading an old comic book of an experience as I've ever had at the movie theater. I literally had moments where I had to remind myself, because it was comic book pacing, I kept having to remind myself that I wasn't looking at panels, that I was watching a screen, and I really enjoyed that experience. I know that's weird, but that's how I felt about it. I also liked Captain America more in that movie than I did in his own movie.
Really?
Yeah, I did.
You know, I kind of wanted just a Captain America Iron Man movie after having seen Avengers. I was like, that's what really held me. That, and I wanted a better solo Hulk movie.
Yeah.
Incredible Hulk was good. Not as good as the Hulk and Avengers.
It's not anything like perfect. There are scenes that got left out, like we've been talking. That seems to be the common theme here, yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's unfortunate. There's some stuff that got cut. Some of the third act is pretty routine, but it's a really fun movie, and especially just making a list of things that I would go back and watch again.
I liked the Avengers quite a lot, but I really want a good Hulk. I really want a Hulk movie of the same tone. That's what I want.
Fair enough.
Let's see.
Your go.
Next, Dread 3D.
You know, I almost put that on my list. I wouldn't have put it that high, though.
I just loved it. It was exactly what I wanted from Dread. I mean, there's some things in it that I thought were kind of tasteless or strange, but I don't care. I loved it. And I don't necessarily need to sit here and critique it for 5 minutes. I thought it was a solid flick.
And we have critiqued it for much longer than 5 minutes.
This is true.
Dread, I thought. Tell me if you agree with this. It's a really good movie. I thought it was a great look into that universe. I just need a sequel that is bigger than that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I feel like that's a heck of a starting point. If that's all we get, I'm fine with it.
Me too.
And,
but at the same time, I would really like to see him have to deal with something much larger.
You know, I feel like a lot of movies will make a first movie with kind of a, like, you guys want another one? Huh? In this movie, they made a movie that made you want more.
Yeah.
And that's what needs to happen with more movies. They make a universe, they establish a universe that's so rich that it is what it is, and you want more of it. So
I agree with you.
It doesn't beg the question, and it doesn't nudge you trying to get you to like a franchise. It's just a good movie.
My next one is Dark Knight.
Fair enough.
I've talked a lot about that movie.
Yeah, I believe we've talked about it here too.
But I love it, and it's one that I go back to frequently.
Was the Joker in that movie?
I think he was.
Maybe.
Yeah. Although, I tell you what, man, I never figured out how he got those scars.
Yeah?
I never figured that. I think I know how Two-Face got his, though.
Fair enough.
Go ahead.
All right. My number 3.
This is funny. We're going to talk probably less about our top ones than we did about our bottom ones.
Well, yeah. My number 3, Hellboy.
I figured that was going to be way up there.
Love Hellboy. Mainly, the big thing for me with Hellboy is I love this idea that here's a guy who's technically not a man.
Here's a guy.
Here's a guy that likes to play football on a football field. So here's a guy that's technically not a human being.
Right.
And I love this whole, like, even when they make it blatant at the end, you know, what makes a man a man? I feel like it's interesting, and it's a good character arc for this guy. He's trying to honor his father, and by doing so, he proves that he's more human than some human beings. And I feel like this movie's just great. Now, Hellboy 2, I feel like, is the scope that the Hellboy needed to be, but strayed away from Hellboy. At that point, they should have called it BPRD. And
I agree with you. I actually enjoy it as a movie more than I enjoyed Hellboy, but Hellboy's a better character piece.
Yeah, I think the big problem with Hellboy for me is that it's kind of anticlimactic, but largely I don't care. And you know, it's funny, for those of you who don't know, which is pretty much all of you, on the back of the wedding programs, I put a quote from Hellboy. Did you notice that?
I didn't even realize that. Did you really?
Yep, we put quotes from, and I went through and I chose all the quotes and okayed them with my wife, but, well, at that time, fiance. And I had stuff like Jane Austen, F. Scott Fitzgerald, Shakespeare, the Blues Brothers, and, which it was Hellboy. It was, hey, you on the other side, let her go, yada, yada. Mm-hmm. And people were like, that's really funny. Or they were like, I don't know what that is. So I love Hellboy that much that I would put the quote in my wedding program.
My next one is Superman 2. And I'm
the
lumping this with the Donner Cut.
Oh, okay.
Because, I'm lumping them together because the difficulty is, and you know, when the Donner Cut came out, I enjoyed that version so much that I was one of those guys for a while that was like, the Donner Cut's great, forget the Lester Cut. Then I went back and reviewed it, and the difficulty is there is stuff in the Lester Cut that I miss in the Donner Cut.
Like the flag and stuff?
I missed the flag at the end. That's a big one. There is stuff, because a lot of what Donner wanted to shoot didn't get shot. In trying to splice those things together, there's stuff in that movie that doesn't make sense, especially the ending. He's turned time backwards, and nothing that happens in that movie, and then he goes back to that bar and beats up a guy that wouldn't have remembered picking on him in the first place. It doesn't make any sense. It drives me crazy. So, you know, the Donner Cut has its problems because it's not fully realized, and so, like, I can't put it totally over the Lester Cut. Obviously, a lot of the stuff people don't like with the Lester Cut, I don't like either. I don't like the magic kiss. Do I like it less than I like the world spinning backwards? Yeah, it's kind of 6 of one and half a dozen of the other to me at this point. So, you know, the endings are not what I like about the Superman movies. Ultimately, it's Zod, and you know, Zod gets some of his fun scenes, you know, cut out of the Donner Cut also. So that's the difficulty there. Yeah, it's certainly technically a better movie, but I don't know if it's a more enjoyable movie for me. There's this thing that I noticed. I don't know if I've told you this, which is why I'm going to tell you now. I'm going to waste screen time to tell you this. There's this moment that I noticed when Ollie and I did our commentary on Superman 2, where the camera is focused on Ursa arm wrestling a guy, and right behind them, you can see Zod very meticulously trying to understand pi. And I'd never noticed it before, but he's just back there, like really fixated on this piece of pie, and it's really funny. Anyway,
pretty funny.
Yeah, Zod is one of my favorite villains of all time, and it's all thanks to Terrence Stamp.
Does it exist, or do you think it ever could exist?
Yeah.
A comic book version of what Donner really wanted to do?
Yeah, sure could.
I would love to see that. Donner, get on it.
And Donner has not a lot, but Donner, I think, wrote a comic book story once a couple of years ago. I'm pretty positive that
Independent
happened.
of the films, or were they based on what he wanted to do?
It was based on some notes that he had written, I think. In fact, I don't even know if he wrote it or if he just gave his notes to somebody. I forget how exactly it worked. But anyway, I think that could happen. Yeah, that would be wow. That's a great idea. That's wonderful. The difficulty, of course, is that since the Donner Cut actually came out and people kind of see it as the thing, I think a lot of people just don't realize that they did have to borrow a lot from the Lester thing. The other problem, though, too, is that you never would have the definitive ending, because you basically have to make a comic book that was Superman 1 and 2 together like they were supposed to be in the first place. Like you wouldn't just make
That's
a comic
what you should
book.
Do.
I didn't think of this. Yeah, you wouldn't make just a comic book of Superman 2. Yeah, I didn't think of that. You would make the comic book where there's a cliffhanger in between the two, where what happens at the where Superman throws the missile in space at the end of the first one, and then it breaks the Phantom Zone, and then Zod comes out of it, and then Superman 2 happens. That's what it would be, because that's what they almost did. Anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Let's see here. My number 2.
Number 2!
Movie that came out in 1990.
Yes.
Do you know what this is going to be?
1990 is gonna be The Shadow.
Nope, that was 94, but that's not based on a comic book.
I'm sorry, I'm an idiot. I was just thinking of things you like a lot. 1990.
Had this been more superheroes instead of comic books, The Phantom and The Shadow probably would have been on here.
I hate that I can't immediately figure this out.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
Dick Tracy?
Nope.
Okay,
which I think was not originally a comic book.
I don't think it was either, but I'm just trying to... Yeah, I can't think of anything. Go ahead.
The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh, okay, of course. 90.
Number 2!
I forgot you hadn't said that yet.
No,
I thought you said that already.
I don't really have anything else to say. I just love that movie, and I put that in several times during the year. Just for their background noise, or I mean, that's one of my pick-me-up movies. If I've had a bad day, I'll sit down and I'll watch Ghostbusters, I'll watch Ninja Turtles, I'll watch my number 1 movie. So,
fantastic. My number 2 is X2.
X2?
Yep.
Oh yeah.
It's still one of my very, very, very favorite comic movies.
We didn't really talk a lot about it. Is there anything else you want to say?
We didn't talk a whole lot about it. I find Stryker so incredibly fascinating.
Yeah.
And I love that trio between those 3 guys. I think, honestly, there might even be some deeper involved character stuff going on in First Class, but you couldn't have that before X2. I feel like there's this really like First Class is an interesting foil for X2, and so again, some of it is kind of a nostalgia thing. Maybe down the road I'll decide that I like First Class even better than I like X2. I don't know.
Apparently, I have.
But I don't know. I've done a rewind on it. I've gushed on it a million times. Anyway, I love that movie. Patrick Stewart and McKellen are brilliant together in that, and the only thing I wish is that Patrick Stewart had gotten more screen time, and that Cyclops had ever gotten screen time in anything.
Yeah!
In anything. Did you see my First Class review?
No.
I opened my First Class review with the joke that because they took Cyclops' brother and made him older than Cyclops in First Class and put him ahead of everything, that and now they're shafting him yet again. They should have just called it Cyclops Shaft 5: The Revenge.
Revenge. Take that,
They're always doing things to Cyclops. Anyway, Vince,
I feel like Cyclops is a more interesting character than people tend to give him credit for.
Absolutely.
And one of our viewers will be like, yes! So...
Vince, I can't wait to find out what your number 1 is.
Number 1. I was kind of going back and forth between my number 1 and my number 2. I wasn't sure which one I wanted to be the top. Anyway, drum roll. The 1991 The Rocketeer.
Really?
Yeah, I love
The Rocketeer. I know you love that movie, but I didn't know you liked it enough to put it at your top spot.
Well, we're talking not necessarily about the movies that we think are the best movies, but the one that we put in the player the most.
Okay, yeah, sure.
So I think I don't put The Rocketeer in as often as I would, because I don't want to have to subject my wife to watching The Rocketeer. And I say that, and then she says, "No, I like The Rocketeer." I'm like, "Yeah, but do you want to watch it once a month?" like, think about it. Love The Rocketeer.
Happily, not to rub it in, my wife would watch 89 once a month.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, she probably would.
She would probably watch my top one every month also.
My wife probably would. I'm just trying to be considerate.
But my point is, I don't have to be ha 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 ha.
Anyway, I love The Rocketeer.
Did you know?
And Alan Arkin's fantastic.
I was going to mention Alan Arkin. That's what I was going to say. I was going to say, did you know that Captain Invincible is in that movie?
Yep.
That's what I was going to say.
Indeed. Oh God, I love everything about that movie. I love how much it tries to emulate, how much it successfully emulates pulp as opposed to movie serials.
Yep.
And I love the casting in the movie. I love the dog cafe. I think this has significant, interesting style, and I just love everything about it. And I feel like it's better than the original. I feel like it's better than the comic book. The movie, I think, holds more water than what the comic book does, and gives you more of a character arc for people. So, I enjoyed it. So, Cap's number one.
Well, Vince, I'd like you to do me a favor, and I'd like you to go over to that shelf and bring me my number one. Surely. Okay, so, about Dark Knight Rises. I gotta tell you, I really did almost sincerely put Rises on the list. And the thing is, yeah, I was disappointed with it, and yeah, it wasn't what I wanted, but at the end of the day, it's still watchable. I still enjoyed it. I still love Bane. But no, it begins, Vince. And, you know, I had so much Batman on the list, and I just kept, like, there were other things, and I kept going, I could put it at the 21 spot, but then that might seem kind of lame. I just couldn't decide what to do with it. Ultimately, I wanted to put the whole Nolan trilogy together in one, because I'm not going to watch Begins. I'm going to watch Begins all the way through, you know, so there's that. But anyway, for anybody that still thinks Captain Logan hates Dark Knight Rises, no, I don't hate Dark Knight Rises. It just wasn't what I wanted. Now that I know what it is, and I've watched it a couple times, it's watchable. I'll watch it. It's just not as good as this. This is not just my favorite comic movie. This is my favorite movie. I mean, and I've said this a million times, so I'm not going to go on about it. There's no other way to do this with this list. That's my favorite movie. It is my favorite character study on film. Partially because I'm partial to Batman, but
most everyone is.
There you go. Anyway, yeah. So that's it, Vince.
Our lists were pretty dissimilar.
Yeah, I knew they would be, which is part of the reason I wanted to do this. I thought it would be kind of fun to see.
I'm pretty pleased with that. I mean, of course, we had Iron Man and X-Men First Class.
And you didn't put Avengers anywhere on yours.
No, I mean, that's the thing is, I didn't put Begins or Rises on there either.
Yeah.
I didn't put Incredible Hulk. I didn't put Iron Man 2 or 3.
And I was surprised you didn't put Incredible Hulk. I thought that would be in there.
I liked the Incredible Hulk, but there was issues with the Incredible Hulk that I just couldn't look past. There are some movies that I want to be more perfect than they are. And
well, yeah,
there are some movies that I feel like have missed opportunities. Like Thor's not a bad movie.
No,
it's just not as interesting as a different movie could have been. I mean, I feel like Thor spending that much time on Earth walking around not knowing what to do is not interesting.
Yeah.
So, and that's not necessarily to say that it makes it bad. It's just not interesting to me.
Although weirdly, when I did a commentary on that with Dan, we discovered that there's not nearly as much of that as I remembered there being.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a better movie than I gave it credit for. It still wasn't, in my mind, good enough to put on this list, but I can't wait for Dark World. I think it's going to be great.
I liked the Avengers. I liked it. I'm interested to see Dark World. I really do. I feel like maybe this Thor that we had was just not my cup of tea. Maybe Dark World will be.
Yeah.
So it's just I don't have anything against.
Did you like what Thor had to do with it in Avengers or?
No, not really.
Really?
I thought the interesting thing in Avengers was straight up Captain America and Iron Man's relationship, and then the Incredible Hulk's involvement. I didn't like. I thought Black Widow had too little and too cliche. What do you call it? Spy movie type stuff.
That's fair.
And
sure.
I feel like Hawkeye. I feel like you could have made Black Widow and Hawkeye really interesting, but I don't think they did.
I don't like what was done with Hawkeye. I didn't like that 2/3 of that movie he's brainwashed.
I mean, it's not interesting to me. I mean, I like that they were involved with each other. I like that it's not super in your face involved, and that it's not exactly it's not even a relationship. It's just this need to help each other that's there, and I feel like there could have been a lot more done with those characters. I don't think Scarlett Johansson really had the chops to pull off what needed to be done, but she was okay. She wasn't bad. She just didn't make the character memorable for me.
Yeah, I don't know. I would be very surprised if Whedon didn't give them a whole lot more to do in the next one.
You know, that version of Black Widow, I feel like what Whedon really did was he wrote what he wanted Kitty Pryde to be. What he wanted Shadowcat to be.
You've told me that before. I could see that.
But so that's why it's not on my list, is that there are certain things that just make me go, oh, I wanted more from that because I like Hawkeye a lot. I think he's an interesting character. So when he just turned out to be some brainwashed nut throughout most of the movie, I went, that's okay. It doesn't have to be interesting, but it's just it brings it down for me.
Yeah.
So that's why Avengers isn't on the list. It's not bad.
You cracked me up when you brought me Rises. Let's go give me my number one. I don't know why I set myself up for it.
I gave him this. I went.
As soon as he started walking over there, just in my mind, I was going, of course.
Of course. Well, I'll put them back for you.
Thanks, Vince. I appreciate it. And we'll wait for you to do that.
There you go.
Everybody, thanks a lot for spending some time with us as we counted down each of our 21 favorite comic book movies. And feel free to do the same in the comments if you like. Leave your 21 favorite comic book movies if you could make that list. Kind of a fun thing to do. Remember, there are movies based on comic books, not just superhero things, and not just superheroes that weren't based on a comic book that were just made up for a movie, but just strictly comic movies is what we did. Vince, this took a good long time, but I'm glad we took the time to do it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I like our lists. I might even save mine. Who knows?
Well, it'll at least be safe here, you know.
Indeed. 20 years from now, I'll come back and watch this video and go, that's weird.
You know, I don't like any of those movies anymore.
Why did I like that much? Huh.
Well, everybody, thanks for watching Geeks Not Nerds, and if there's something you'd like us to talk about in a future video, leave that in the comments as well. And I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Vince. Reminding you to support your local comic book store?
See you later.
I couldn't remember if this was a GNN or not.
That was hilarious. I even, right before we ended it...